All right, now back to the show. Now we're talking about Ruger Blackhawks today. So it all started with a fellow named Bill Ruger and Alex Sturm. Now, it's always been called the Sturm Ruger Company, and they just recently, now, unfortunately, Mr. Sturm died right as they got started. Mm-hmm. But Bill Ruger hung on tight, built the company the way he did. Super strong guns. Everything he made was just top-notch, and the company bears the name now for almost 70 years, the Ruger Company. Now, it started in 1946 in their garage, actually.
But sounds like a commercial on TV where everybody starts their business in their garage.
Yeah, it's like and just think how huge Ruger is now. It's amazing how big it is. Largest gun manufacturer in America, and for that matter, probably just about the world. Now, in 1946, what kind of guns were they building, Mary? Do you know? They started off with the Ruger 22 pistol.
I knew that. I was just seeing if you did.
The standard 22. It looked like a Luger. Okay. You grew up with one. Your dad had one. You grew up seeing those. I grew up. You've seen them in catalogs all the time as kids. They weren't expensive. They were strong, and they always worked. People loved them. So Ruger had it right. So they started building those guns, and those first ones, they've got them in museums and stuff. They're beautiful pieces. But in 1953, they introduced a single-shot, 6-shot revolver, the 22 revolver, and it was called the Single 6. We talked about one of those earlier for sale out at Williams. Now, it took off like wildfire. The beautiful guns, well made, Western style, but super strong. Ruger never went cheap. That was a good thing about it.
So why do you think they took off so well? Why do you think they did so good?
Strong, good looking, and they worked.
Was it stainless steel?
Nope.
Black.
They were just
blue?
blued guns. So that was 1953. They introduced a single 6. In 1955, the Blackhawk and 357 Magnum was introduced. Now, 357 Magnums, very strong gun, a lot of high pressure. So they built it right. They built a very strong gun. And it became like the mainstay. It was like one of the biggest selling guns they had was the Ruger Blackhawk and 357 Magnum. And it took off really good. And this was partly due to Colt not producing single-action armies for a long time. They didn't make any new ones. Colt quit making them. And the popularity of the Western movies, you're talking the 50s, what kid didn't want to have a 6-gun strapped to his, and what dad didn't want to have one too?
Is that what the Lone Ranger carried?
Well, darn near. He had a 6-shooter, but just a Western style 6. But it was all the Western movies,
Oh, absolutely.
And so everybody in America is watching TV. They're seeing 6-shooters. You grew up in the Wild West era, and the 6-shooters took off like mad. So
I can understand that because that's a great time. And TVs were so new. We were following and copying and doing what they were doing. We were buying the,
whatever was on TV.
The commercials.
Yeah. Now Bill Ruger felt, and this is in Jacob's words exactly, felt that the sportsman would appreciate a high-quality revolver. So when he brought that Blackhawk out in 55, he used the best steel of the day, and just to make it even better than a Colt, Ruger used coil springs in the internal housing as opposed to some of the flat springs that Colt uses. Now, the first Blackhawks came sporting an adjustable rear sight and a raised front sight. So that was different from the Colts as well, because Colts always had a front blade sight and a rear notch in the frame. So these had actually adjustable sights, which made it better for targeting. Actually, I really appreciate that type of sight because I grew up with it. I didn't do a whole lot of single 6 shooting, so we were single shot shooting where you had not adjustable sights. So I've grown accustomed to that, and I've always liked it. Now, the early Blackhawks were commonly referred to as the 3-screw models, due to they had 3 screws on the side of the frame, and these were produced until 1962. And you're gonna find out more about 3-screw here in just a minute, because
that determines when your gun was produced, if it has 3 screws or not.
Very good. In 1973, the lawyers got their hands on some lawsuits, and the subject was Blackhawks going off unintentionally.
Yeah.
Now, what that raised a stir about was changing the internal lockup mechanism in how the firing pin is hit, and it became what's called a transfer bar. So, and then they figured out some things as they developed the Blackhawk into a better gun. And honestly, what was happening is they'd put the gun in if you were loading the gun and you had the hammer pulled all the way back or whatever, you could drop the gun and it might misfire. The transfer bar changed all that, and that's a wonderful thing. It made the gun much safer. You could actually carry 6 rounds in the gun again. On an old 6 gun, Mary, just so you know why we're talking about this, on an old 6 gun, the old Western style 6 guns, you carried 5 rounds in the gun because you never let the hammer rest on a shell. Because all you had to do was bump it. You could hit a bump and it would go off. So you don't want that to happen.
That just, I don't know.
That
is very worrisome to me. I am so glad that this new transfer bar system is available. And do your listeners know that if they have guns, Blackhawks, the old Blackhawks, they can send them in and get that transfer bar put on them?
Now they do, because you just informed them.
Oh.
And now, if you've got a Ruger with 3 screws on the side, it does have high collector value, but you can have it turned right into Ruger, and they'll change it over to a transfer bar system, and there'll be 2 screws on the side as opposed to 3.
And that basically means that you can carry your gun with those 6 bullets in it and not worry about it accidentally going off.
Exactly. Still, a lot of old timers, and I got a lot of friends that still only carry 5 in a gun. So it's something to consider. Now, as the 3 screws and the 2 screws, I don't want to confuse anybody. If you're a Blackhawk owner and you know anything about these and you've been around them for years, you've seen the ads in the magazines for about 30 years now, 35 years, that they'll change these guns and make your Blackhawks into the new model. And that's what it's called, is the new model Blackhawk.
And that means it's got that transfer bar, that the safety option.
Right.
Okay.
Now, let's talk about something different.
What?
How about if you don't want a 357 Magnum or a 44 Magnum?
In a Super Blackhawk?
Yeah, or a Blackhawk. Either one. What if you want something different? The first 44 Magnums were not in Super Blackhawks. They were actually in the Blackhawk frame. Okay. The Super Blackhawk frame, which we'll get into here in just a minute, is a little bit of a different frame style and a very, very strong gun. The grip is different on a Super Blackhawk, and they made some other subtle changes too. But what if you want to get something different? How about, have you ever heard of a 41 Magnum?
Me?
Yeah. You know why the 41 Magnum really came about?
No.
41 Magnum bridges the gap between the 357 Magnum and the 44 Magnum. Okay?
Oh, I get it, yes.
Now,
which means it's probably right in the middle for strength.
Now we're talking old school. Okay. 41 Magnum is an optimum gun. It's a very smart gun, powerful. Actually,
and Blackhawks come in 41 Magnums.
Right? Yes, they do. And they are actually, you can have more power from a 41 Magnum than you can from a 44 Magnum in some loads.
Really?
So pretty interesting. Now, to put it in today's terms, like today, people fight over 9mm, 40 cals, or 45s. I only carry a 45, or I only carry 9mm. I don't need a 40. Then Smith & Wesson came out with a 40 cal. And it actually has more energy than a 45, but with slightly more recoil than a 9mm. And it bridges that gap. Well, that's what the 41 Magnum does. Now, the Ruger Blackhawk was available in 41 Magnum, and still a wonderful shooting gun, and hand loader special. Just about everybody I know that has one hand loads them.
So you mean hand loads the
41 Magnum, the shells.
The shells.
Reloads the shells.
Gotcha.
Now, so let's look what's available in the Blackhawk. Of course, 38 Special 357 Magnum.
Okay.
41 Magnum. 44 Magnum, but here's one you might not have thought of. You can get them in 30 carbine.
I did not know that.
Now think of the popularity after Korean War, after World War II and the Korean War of the 30 carbine. Shells were, you could get shells dirt cheap. They were left over from World War II and the Korean War. So you got these 30 carbine shells, and then you got a revolver that shoots them. How cool. But what you must have when you shoot a 30 carbine handgun is what?
Ear protection.
Ear protection, because it is a mind-splitting noise that comes out of that gun when it fires.
Isn't a Blackhawk loud anyways?
Well,
and reading
it was the first big handgun you ever fired, was the 357 Blackhawk.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, you did good. You did good. It was back on our farm. You did great shooting with it. I was very impressed with you. And that's why I married you. But anyways, now the 30 carbine, though, that's just it is an intensely hot round, and there's a ton of bombastic, crushing noises that come out of that.
That's what I was going to say. I read a comment on your Facebook page.
Oh, that was from Mark.
And he said it was Blackhawk is the loudest gun he's ever owned, something like that.
The loudest handgun he's ever fired. Now, and that's from our good friend who's a gunsmith, Mark Hartman down in
Atlanta?
just north of Atlanta.
Yeah.
And thanks, Mark, for listening, and thanks for commenting on their Facebook page. But if you want to mellow out a little bit, but you still want to have some thump, how about if we go into the 45 Colt? Okay. You can hand load 45 Colts and get them in cowboy loads, which are nice, soft shooting rounds, fun, and it's a 452 diameter bullet. So it's a big bullet. It's the same size as a 45 ACP. So it's much bigger than a 44 Magnum. And especially in Blackhawks, there's a lot of people that handgun hunt with this gun. I mean, they do a lot of hunting with 45 Colts. And it's why? Because it works. Now, the cool thing about having a 44 Magnum is you can put 44 specials in it as well and shoot specials out of it.
Is it a lighter load?
Much lighter.
Okay.
You can make them just for cutting paper. 44. Actually, the 44 special is one of the most accurate hand loads I've ever produced. Why?
You take that to the range?
You can say that about any handgun, but it's funny. It's kind of a mockery in the gun business. Every time they say, well, the 38 Special is the most accurate handgun. No. It all depends on the shooter and how well it's rifled and barreled and all that kind of stuff and the balance of the bullet. But having a 45 Colt, Blackhawk actually made you got an extra cylinder with your 45 Colts to shoot 45 ACPs through. Because remember I said it's the same size bullet? Mm-hmm. So here you got 357 Magnums that can shoot 38 specials, 41 Magnums, 44 Magnums that can shoot 44 specials, 30 carbines, 45 Colts that shoot 45 ACPs, and guess what the bonus is with the 38 357?
What's the bonus?
The bullet diameter, the diameter of the barrel, actually works fine for 9mm. So you can get a 9mm cylinder and shoot them out of the 38 357. It's kind of mind-boggling, isn't it?
That's kind of like having one of those purses where you can just change the cover and it matches all your outfits.
Oh, it's the Gunsmith Show, folks. I'm John Smith and she's Mary Smith. So, hey, we got to go to commercial break.
It's a universal gun. I like it. It goes with every outfit.
Did you hear that? You just said it in public. You like that gun. Good, we'll go gun shopping today. All right. Well, hey, folks, we got to go to commercial break. Hang on tight. John and Mary will be right back. I Can Build That. Say it with confidence because you listen every Saturday at 10 a.m. to the I Can Build That show. For nearly 5 years, we've been helping you around your house with remodeling, renovation, and repairs, along with money-saving hints, proper techniques, and rock-solid advice that only 30 years in the business can bring. So join Mary, Jacob, and myself, Jonathan Smith, for the I Can Build That show. 10 a.m. every Saturday right here on Flint's News Talk 1470. Proudly brought to you by Pal Alarm, Starline Kitchen and Bath Gallery, and Staley's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Tom Wright here for Williams Gunsight Company. Fall is definitely here, and that means only one thing. It's hunting season. For over 50 years, Williams Gunsight Company has provided quality service and products to our Michigan hunting and shooting community. Rifles, shotguns, handguns, new and used for hunting, home security, self-protection, or just target shooting. Williams has a great selection for whatever your shooting needs, including crossbows. And with 6 full-time gunsmiths, Williams' service department is second to none. From while you wait sight-ins or scope mounting to complete firearm restoration. Now Williams has expanded our sales area to the entire United States with internet sales of used firearms. Check out our entire selection of used guns with photos at williamsgunsight.com. Finally, don't forget our rifle and handgun ranges are open to the public 7 days a week, and our skeet and trap fields are open every Thursday and weekends. So, for store hours, location, used gun inventory, check us out on the web at williamsgunsight.com.
Do you work for yourself or have a business that you need to promote? If so, then you need to get a hold of Mary Smith from iCanMarketThat.com. She is a professional in the printing and promotional products industry. If you need high-quality business cards, printing, or promotional products designed the way you want and at a price you can afford, call Mary today at 810-223-7457 or visit her website at iCanMarketThat.com.
Flint's News Talk 1470. 1470 WFNT Flint. Shop the value connection at WFNT.com. WFNT.com.
And now back to the Gunsmith Show with John and Jake Smith.
If you'd like to talk to John or Jake, call now. 810-744.
All right. Now, we got, actually, it's John and Mary today because Jake's on assignment.
But you can still talk.
Well,
still
sure.
call
You can
and
still
talk
call
to us.
743-8255 or toll free 866-533-1530. Now, and we are also on WLCO, which is covering the whole thumb and all the way down almost I imagine as far south as almost Utica. It goes way down
in Michigan.
Here in Michigan, yeah.
Only Michigan people understand when we talk about the thumb.
The thumb, yeah. Well, we were supposed to be up by the middle finger today, but we're not up there. That's okay, though. We canceled our trip. Because you know why?
Because
there's a lot going on. It's Woods and Water weekend.
That's not
It's the fundraiser tonight for the skeet team. There's a lot going on. There's a lot. Aren't you excited?
Yippee skippy.
I mean, it's
so
September. It's cooler today. It's nice just having a cooler day. Yeah. Yesterday was 94 degrees in Flint, and it was kind of miserable.
Yeah. I am so excited that we gave up our weekend at Boyne Mountain to stay in Flint.
Now, I'm going to tell you something. I felt truly sorry for people yesterday in the heat.
Yeah, it was bad.
I had to run over to Williams Gun Sight yesterday for just a few minutes, and on the way, driving down I-69, seeing those poor guys out there working on the road in that heat, I felt truly sorry for them. And then I get to Williams, and I hear all these gunshots. I'm like, holy cow! There's some diehards out there shooting their guns today. It was just and sure enough, I saw this couple come in from the range, and they had black shirts on. And they were completely soaked. It was a husband and wife, and they had like 6 guns with them. And I thought, my gosh, what a
maybe it was the only day they had to go.
Rough day to go to the range, you know. But right now the range starts really picking up at Williams.
It's getting closer to hunting season. Yep. But yesterday was the hottest day in Michigan, in Flint, for the year.
That's right.
It was yesterday.
So it took all the way to September to get us into the 93, 94 degree range.
I can deal with that.
Thanks, JR, for that weather update. We appreciate it. All right.
But
well, we got more to talk about.
Is this the Weather Channel?
No,
or
it's not.
The Gunsmith Show.
It's the Gunsmith Show. I'm telling you, it is. You might not believe it, but it is. So we're still talking about the Ruger Blackhawk and the Super Blackhawk. Now, in 1956, the Blackhawk was kicking butt. It was doing good. It was a good gun. Everybody knew it. And it's kind of an interesting story. It might be a little folklore, but the word was a guy found this .44 Magnum shell. Mm-hmm. And it was a new Remington round. Mm-hmm. And Smith & Wesson was going to produce the gun.
Mm-hmm. To shoot the .44 Magnum
the .44 Magnum. But Ruger got a hold of one of the shells and quickly produced the .44 Magnum and made it work perfectly. Okay? So
that's how
he made the gun to fire, and he actually beat Smith & Wesson to production and put the .44 Blackhawk on the streets for sale before Smith & Wesson got the Model 629 out, or the pre-Model 629, or Model 29, I'm sorry. 6 is a prefix for stainless. We were just talking about stainless guns during a break. So it was kind of confusing, but what happened was Ruger got the gun out before Smith & Wesson did, and hence the .44 Magnum in Blackhawk became the new powerhouse, right?
If that's a true story.
I think it is, because it did come out before Smith & Wesson.
Okay.
So pretty interesting. Now, so the Super Blackhawk was introduced in 1959.
So they changed from Blackhawk to Super Blackhawk.
That's right.
Which automatically means it's better.
If you put super in front of anything,
it's better, right?
Like one of the guys who works for me calls me Superman. And right, Kevin? Matt calls me Superman all the time, but anyways.
And
all the time.
And Kevin is our producer for those who aren't in the studio.
Yeah, he's right here being silently making me laugh. But anyways, the Super Blackhawk has some different features to it. It has a longer grip so that you can hold the gun better because it is more powerful.
You mean for the bigger hands?
For a bigger hand, and to put 2 hands on it to hold it. Because a Blackhawk has kind of a small frame.
That's what bothers me about handguns is if you can't, I got to have my pinky on the handle.
And that's the thing.
If my pinky hangs off the handle, I don't like it.
I understand exactly.
Kevin doesn't like it. You don't like it.
Blackhawk was my first gun. The very first. And hey, what do I like to do?
Shoot.
Customize things. The very first thing I did, I bought a Pockmeyer Blackhawk grip for that gun in about 30 seconds. and had it on there. I was immediately changing the gun.
Is that so you could support your little finger?
Yes,
on
it
the
has
handle?
extra rubber to grab hold of, and it just gave you a great grip on the gun. Now, I like the wood grips, too, and they do make wood grips that are bigger so that you can... You've seen some of the custom ones that some of our friends have gotten. They're absolutely beautiful grips.
I just thought I'd throw in my little pet peeve. That's it. We're on. Continue.
Okay. So, not only did it have a bigger grip frame, pardon me, but it had the back of the trigger, instead of being round, the back of the trigger guard is actually squared off.
And what was the purpose of that?
I'm not really sure, but you can. It's a dragoon style. And I like it. It's a sharp look. It's just a nice looking gun. It's one way to tell that it's a Super Blackhawk is by that grip frame. And then, what else did they do? Are you that far?
I am. The entire gun is made of steel.
Yes.
What was it made for?
Well, in the Blackhawks, the grip frames are made out of aluminum. Or an alloy of some type.
Oh, so now super means it's made out of steel.
It's got a big S tattooed right on its chest.
Okay.
What else?
Yeah.
There's no fluting on the cylinders. In other words, so on the sides of the cylinders, you used to be able to, the fluting is the grooves in the side of the cylinder, and as it rotated, you see them. On a Super Blackhawk, it's smooth.
Why?
More steel around that explosion that's going to happen in that chamber.
I think that makes sense. I like that. So far, if you have a Super Blackhawk, you've got a longer grip, you've got the squared back of the trigger, it's all steel, and no fluting on the cylinder.
That's right. And if you've got a Super Blackhawk, what do you need to do?
Make sure it's insured.
You know it. Now, who do you get for your insurance?
I guessed it right.
You did. Get a hold of the Goodhart Lemieux Agency. Get a hold of Zach Goodhart. He's my good friend in the insurance agents, in the insurance business. He's from Farm Bureau. His office number is 810-391-2455. Now remember that, 391-2455.
And they're right in Miller Road.
Miller Road, right over, pretty close to Swartz Creek, but he's actually in Flint Township. And great insurance agent. He will help you assess the value of your guns and make sure they are properly insured.
And you know why he can do that? Because he's an avid gun lover, too.
Yeah, he's one of our good friends from SCI, Safari Club International, and just a great sportsman. He's been on the show several times with us, and he's been a supporter of the show almost from day one. So we appreciate his support, and a great guy, and glad he's part of the Gunsmith Show. So remember that, Zach Goodhart from the Goodhart Lemieux Agency. And anytime you have any questions, you can email us, and we'll be glad to get you that information. All right, now, back to the Blackhawk and the Super Blackhawk. One of the cool things that happened with the Super Blackhawk is they began to offer them in a special finish. Stainless steel. Okay? Now, stainless steel, what does that make? It makes a hunter's dream of a handgun. Yes, there's silver, but when you're out in the rain, you don't have to try to hide it. Because you don't want it to rust.
So blued guns would rust?
Oh, goodness, yes. Blued guns, you have to clean as soon as you're done working with them and oil them up and wipe them up. And
so does that mean that
stainless steel guns are pretty durable?
You don't have to wipe those up after you take them out?
I keep mine clean.
Yeah, you guys always take your guns apart and clean them when you're done shooting.
But the key is stainless steel. If you're out hunting for the day or you go out camping for 3 days and you're hunting, your stainless steel guns with you, very little you have to do to that. I mean, you're not going to want it to roll around in the sand, but it's pretty weather safe.
So a blued gun, if you were to go hunting for 3 days, camping out in the woods, when you came home, there might be rust on it if it got wet?
Yes.
Wow.
That's why when we come into deer camp, everybody puts their guns unloaded in the corners of the room, let it air dry, and then wipe it down after it turns room temperature.
Good to know.
Okay. Now, one of the cool things about the Super Blackhawk, though, too, was in blued, is they did a beautiful finish on them. Early. Okay. Beautiful. Similar to Smith & Wesson's bluing. Beautiful finishes. That changed in the 70s, and with the new model Blackhawks, they became more of a flat finish. Not quite as polished and as refined as the before, but it was a matte black or matte blue.
Is that better for hunting so it doesn't reflect so much?
Yeah, it's kind of a non-glare surface. Okay. And it worked out really good, and it became very popular, and it still is to this day. Now, we just got Jacob just recently got a 50th anniversary model of the Blackhawk. Beautiful gun, and just a pleasure to shoot. I was trying to find some pictures. I had pictures in my phone of him shooting it at the range. I was going to put them on Facebook today, and I think I sent them to him and then deleted them. So never delete pictures of somebody shooting a gun. You might need it for evidence one day. But anyways.
Okay.
So the stainless steel models for hunting are available in all different lengths. And they also make a model called the Hunter. Now, the Hunter model is quite interesting. It has like a full rib down the top of the barrel, and it's got grooves in it for Ruger rings. You can put a scope on these guns, and it comes right from the factory like that. The
Could
Hunter
you put a
model,
scope with a bipod on that one too?
You could.
And a sling around your neck
You
to
could.
carry it?
You could.
Just curious. So what was
The
so
challenges
special?
of being Mr. Jonathan Smith.
What's so special about the Hunter
The
model?
Hunter model is specifically designed, even came with nice grips, designed for hunting. They had some green stained wood, which is something I started doing years ago. Refinishing gun stocks, doing a green wash on them. Turns out beautiful. But these turned out beautiful. They're laminated wood grips. They're green grips. Lots of opportunities to customize this gun as well. And then Ruger brought back something that I thought was very, very excellent. They came out with the Beasley model. Now, this is a Blackhawk Beasley. Same basic frame, better trigger, bigger hammer, and a different grip style. The grip comes down a little bit tighter and down longer. It's almost like a Super Blackhawk on steroids. I like it. And Beasley guns are just absolutely beautiful guns. So there's so many options here. The whole point is there's so many. If you can't find a gun you like in the Beasley and in Blackhawk and Super Blackhawk lines from Ruger, you're pretty picky. Because I'm telling you what, if you want just a good, strong revolver for hunting, you just can't beat them. And available in a lot of calibers.
Are they good for home defense?
They are good. They're just not fast to reload. You have to. There's single action, so you have to spin the cylinder and pop each shell out.
Well, I would hope you wouldn't need more than 6.
With these, you probably need
shots.
one. And they are great shooting guns, very accurate. And if you run out of bullets, you can use it as a hammer because they are heavy guns too. So 39, 40 ounces a gun, and those big ones, and heck, the 10.5-inch barreled. Super Blackhawk you could probably use as a cane if you wanted to because they are big.
I would think just the sight of it would be scary enough.
So there's people say, oh, those you've heard it my whole life. Those Blackhawks, those are junk. Yeah, no, they're not. They are the cream of the crop, and they are excellent guns.
Well, maybe who's ever said that? Maybe they just had a bad one. Is it possible?
Well, what if you said, well, 357, I like that caliber, but I want it even more powerful. They made them in 357 Maximum.
Nope, did not know that.
Maximum's better than Super. 357 Maximum is a 357 Magnum on steroids, and
so next year we're going to come out with the Maximum Blackhawk.
the Super Maximum Blackhawk.
Super
yeah.
Maximum.
So, but there's just so I could go on for hours about Ruger pistols. I love them.
We could call you Maximum Man.
Well, we won't go there.
Next
but anyways,
subject.
All right, we got to go to commercial break because we got some fun stuff coming up this week we want to talk about. So hang on tight. We'll be right back.